Global heritage will unite. We share brilliant values and honor the world's most cherished legacies to pass our heritage on to future generations. Busan invites you. The 48th session of UNESCO World Heritage Committee, July 2026, Busan, Korea.
In our headlines on this Wednesday, January 7th, here in South Korea, President Ramyeon holds a press conference in Shanghai following his agenda there, highlighting the start of fresh cooperation with China. And artificial intelligence takes physical form at this year's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and it's generating a lot of buzz at the event and beyond. Meanwhile, Venezuela will provide up to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. at its market price. This is according to a social media post by U.S. President Donald Trump after his recent capture of the Latin American country's leader. We start with details of a press conference held by President Lee Jae-myung earlier on this Wednesday over in Shanghai, following his diplomatic agenda there. I have my colleague Song Yoo-jin, who is part of the presidential press pool, standing by live. Yoo-jin, it's...
Right, Sunny. So I want to first mention that this was actually a surprise press briefing proposed by the president himself, as the presidential press corps was notified late last night. Now, with that being said, the president reflected on his state visit to China, saying that there have been even more progress than he had initially anticipated. Take a listen.
교감도 많이 이루어졌던 것 같고 또 여러 예를 들면 대립할 수 있는 사안들에 대해서도 아주 원만하게 해소할 수 있는 길을 찾아냈던 것 같습니다.
So many of the questions posed to the president focused on long-standing issues between the two countries. President Lee was first asked about whether he sees signs of improvement regarding China's unofficial restrictions on Korean cultural content, including dramas and K-pop. He said that while it will take time, President Xi Jinping had instructed working-level officials to begin concrete discussions, calling it not just a positive sign, but a clear expression of intent.
석자 얼음이 한꺼번에 언 것도 아닌데 또 한꺼번에 다 녹겠냐. 또 과일은 때가 되면 익어서 떨어진다. 이렇게 직접 시 주석께서 말씀하셨는데 그게 정확한 표현인 것 같습니다. 이제 그렇게 노력하겠다. 근데
President Lee added that he also emphasized that easing such restrictions is not only essential to boost cultural exchanges, but also to ease the growing anti-China sentiment in South Korea.
I see. And Eugene, what else was addressed during this press briefing with members of the South Korean media?
So North Korea was high on the agenda as widely expected. President Lee said that peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula was among the key issues he discussed in depth with President Xi.
그래서 우리는 노력하지만 지금 현재는 완전히 차단된 상태라서 소통 자체가 안 되니까 중국이 중재자 역할을 평화의 중재자 역할을 좀 해주면 좋겠다 이렇게 얘기했습니다.
Now, according to President Xi responded that China would make efforts in that direction, but stressed the need for patience given how hostile inter-Korean relations have become in recent years. On the North Korean nuclear issue, Yi said a more realistic approach would be to first stop the program in exchange for corresponding measures, which could then lead to gradual reductions and eventually a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. He added that he asked China to help convey this message to North Korea. So the president's final official engagement, wrapping up his 4-day state visit to China, will be visiting the Korean provisional government in Shanghai, which marks its 100th anniversary this year. Sunny?
All right, Eugene, thank you for the latest on the president's first overseas trip for this year. That was our top office correspondent, Song Eugene, reporting live from Shanghai. And staying in Shanghai, President Ramyeon also on this Wednesday attended a summit of South Korean and Chinese ventures and startups. Addressing young entrepreneurs from the two countries, he pledged tangible support, adding that South Korea is preparing a great leap for a great transition. He also called for the connection of venture and startup ecosystems of South Korea and China to pave the path to productive partnership. Some 400 entrepreneurs and politicians attended the day's event. China has placed restrictions on the export of certain rare earth elements to Japan amid bilateral tensions over the latter's earlier remarks regarding Taiwan. Our Cha Yun-kyung reports.
China has significantly heightened tension with Japan by imposing an immediate ban on exports of items that could have military uses, underscoring Beijing's readiness to apply economic leverage amid political friction linked to Taiwan. On Tuesday, China's Ministry of Commerce announced restrictions on shipments to Japan of so-called dual-use goods, which are products with both civilian and military applications. The move represents a notable escalation in Beijing's response to remarks by Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi regarding Taiwan, an issue China considers central to its sovereignty. Chinese officials have not clarified which specific products are subject to the restrictions, prompting analysts to caution that the measure could interfere with critical supply chains supporting Japan's manufacturing industry. Dual-use categories typically include certain rare earth elements, advanced machine tools, electronic components, sensors, lasers, and other items widely used in industrial production. The absence of precise guidance makes it hard to assess the short-term economic fallout, though the wide scope of the category increases the likelihood of significant supply disruptions. The Chinese military stated that Beijing's decision to impose export controls on dual-use items was a response to Japan's moves to strengthen its military capabilities. It added, as a responsible major country, China has a right and obligation to prevent its goods from being used in ways that undermine regional security. This measure is not only aimed at safeguarding national security and interests, but will also help curb rising militarization in the Asia-Pacific, inject certainty into peace and stability in the region, and demonstrate China's firm commitment to maintaining the regional security order. Meanwhile, Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Kihara Minoru said the export curbs were regrettable, adding that Tokyo will examine the details and consider an appropriate response. Cha Yun-kyung, Arirang News.
In other news, government officials here and ruling party lawmakers have vowed to maintain the global momentum within the industries of K-culture and defense, as well as semiconductors. Our political correspondent An Sung-jin has more.
The government and the ruling Democratic Party have agreed on measures to nurture new growth engines, including the defense industry and the K-culture sector. The government has also reinforced the competitiveness of the semiconductor sector to support the country becoming one of the world's top 2 chip powerhouses. This comes following talks on Wednesday between government officials and ruling party lawmakers at the National Assembly to discuss economic growth strategies for 2026. Officials from the finance, labor, science, and trade ministries attended on behalf of the government. Han Jung-hae, the chairperson of the DP's policy committee, said in a briefing to reporters on the same day that they've addressed ways to revive the country's potential growth rate, including concrete measures to encourage long-term investment in domestic stocks, accelerate restructuring in the petrochemical and steel industries, and develop measures to promote the steel scrap industry. Han added that the DP has urged the government to take short-term measures to stabilize consumer prices, citing enhancing agricultural productivity as a way for fundamental price stability. The DP further requested strong government support in regional RE100 industrial complexes and measures to boost housing demand in regional areas. Following these demands, the government also agreed to establish a major economic leap this year, pledging all-out efforts to revive the livelihoods of vulnerable groups, including small business owners and the self-employed, through proactive macroeconomic policies.
The government will intensively foster national strategic industries such as chips, defense, biotechnology, and K-culture, while accelerating an ultra-innovative economy through AI and green transformation to ensure a rebound in the potential growth rate this year.
Following the policy meeting, DP lawmakers in the Finance Committee held a separate meeting with government officials to continue follow-up discussions. Attention will now turn to how quickly the government can translate broad policy pledges into concrete measures through budget allocation and legislation to boost growth. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, over in the U.S., artificial intelligence takes physical form at this year's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and it's generating a lot of buzz at the event and beyond. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports from the ground.
Meet Atlas. Hyundai Motor Group's Boston Dynamics unveiled this humanoid robot to kick off CES 2026. It drew attention as it resembles the body of a human being, but its limbs move much more freely. The car maker is focusing on robots, specifically physical AI, as the next chapter of its business.
Robots equipped with physical AI. Robots that perceive the world like we do and work responsibly for us and with us. This is technology that is built for humanity. Technology that supports us, extends our capabilities, makes our work safer and in some cases more meaningful.
And Hyundai also won the Best of Innovation award with its moped. The autonomous one can deliver items up to 47 kilograms. Another key Korean company in physical AI is Doosan Robotics. Together with Maple Advanced Robotics Inc., its Scan and Go robot won awards in both AI and robotics, the definition of physical AI. It moves autonomously and scans surfaces to identify areas that need work. Here is how the company explained the technology.
So what we're accomplishing with our physical AI is we're giving the ability for the robots to see, think, and act. So the robot is able to see with our 3D vision. So just like a person would, it's able to take a decision based on the meaningful robot movement with our physical AI that's embedded into the system, and finally do the work.
And this robot by the company is for sorting out parcels and organizing storage. I'm going to put in Arirang. Now this robot finds the block with the correct letters and completes the word. And here at CES, because physical AI requires complex hardware, component makers are also gaining attention, including companies that make the sensors or develop AI software to process data. I spoke to one company that provides the LiDAR sensors for robots and vehicles. After attending CES for a decade in smaller booths, the company finally secured a booth on the main show floor this year, citing the rise of physical AI as perfect timing.
Beyond existing cameras actually capturing 3D spatial data, I believe LiDAR is the new core of the physical AI era. In that sense, as a core sensor for physical AI, it is truly an honor and great to be able to exhibit right here in the center of the show.
As for South Korean companies, while physical AI is not yet a standalone award category, 6 South Korean companies were explicitly identified as winners in the robotics category, or for robotic solutions centered on this new technology. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News, Las Vegas.
Venezuela will provide up to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. at its market price. Now, this is according to a social media post by the U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday, in which he claimed the proceeds would be controlled by the U.S. government to ensure that the money benefits both Venezuela and the U.S. Venezuela currently has millions of barrels of oil stranded in storage due to a U.S. blockade imposed last December. Officials in Caracas and Washington have reportedly discussed redirecting Venezuelan crude oil to U.S. refiners, potentially reducing shipments to China, Venezuela's top buyer over the past decade. And the Trump administration is reportedly seeking to sit down with senior officials from major U.S. oil companies to explore options of boosting oil production in Venezuela. Our Ising-jae explains.
The Donald Trump administration is preparing to meet with senior executives from major U.S. oil companies later this week, according to a source cited by Reuters. Tuesday's report says talks are expected to focus on boosting Venezuela's oil production following the U.S. military operation that removed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro from power. The administration is considering a return of U.S. energy companies to Venezuela nearly 2 decades after the country's government took control of U.S.-led oil operations. The White House declined to comment directly on the planned meetings, but said it believes U.S. industry is ready to re-enter Venezuela. The 3 largest U.S. oil companies, ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips, and Chevron, did not immediately respond to requests for comment. However, industry analysts cautioned that such plans face significant obstacles, including damaged infrastructure, political instability, an uncertain legal framework, and questions over the durability of U.S. policy toward Venezuela. Meanwhile, interim President Delcy Rodriguez announced the activation of an agro-food, industrial, and communal high command to protect the country's productive sectors following the attack. She also called for national unity and pledged to maintain the flow of essential goods and industrial production.
Venezuelans, let us keep working so that at the end of 2026, we can say we have fulfilled our duty as a country in national unity. We Venezuelans have fulfilled our duty. All productive sectors have fulfilled their duty to our people and our homeland. And with that, the agro-food, industrial, and communal high command is now in place.
Venezuela's Justice Minister Tarek William Saab described the U.S. military operation as a war crime, saying it was carried out without a declaration of war or United Nations Security Council authorization. He said prosecutors would investigate the incident. Ising-jae, Arirang News.
Also, despite the pushback from European leaders, the White House has reaffirmed the Trump administration's resolve to claim Greenland. Our Ian Jin has the latest.
The White House said on Tuesday local time that President Donald Trump is discussing a range of options to acquire Greenland, and his plans do not exclude the potential use of the U.S. military. This comes in the wake of the U.S. military raid on Saturday that captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, since which Trump has threatened to use force elsewhere in the Western Hemisphere. President Trump reasserted on Sunday that the United States needs Greenland for its national security.
I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and the European Union needs us to have it, and they know that.
Trump added that he would return to the topic in 2 months. A U.S. military seizure of Greenland would send shockwaves through the NATO alliance and deepen the divide between Trump and European leaders. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said during a briefing on Monday that the Trump administration was not signaling an imminent invasion of the Arctic island, but that the goal was to buy the island from Denmark. Trump, during his first presidential term in 2019, had mentioned acquiring Greenland as a strategic U.S. hub in the Arctic, then also referring to the idea as essentially a large real estate deal. On Tuesday, 6 European allies, the leaders of France, Germany, the UK, Italy, Poland, and Spain, backed Denmark's position in a joint statement, calling for respect for territorial integrity, and that Greenland belongs to its people, and only Denmark and Greenland can decide on matters concerning their territory. They also called for upholding the principles of the UN Charter, including sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the inviolability of borders. With a population of 57,000 people, Greenland has had extensive self-governance since 1979, with its defense and foreign policy matters led by Denmark. Other countries like Russia and China have also shown growing interest in the island, attracted by its untapped rare earth deposits. Ian Jin, Arirang News.
On a light note now, more Korean words have been included in the Oxford English Dictionary this year. A total of 8 Korean words, including ramyeon, haenyeo and 선배, have been added, making a second straight year of new Korean entries in the dictionary. The other words are 빙수, 찜질방, 아줌마, opistel and Korean barbecue. Observers are linking the inclusion of these words to the expanding global interest in K lifestyle. Scholars, for their part, believe the inclusion is evidence of the linguistic legacy of the Korean wave.
Are they okay?
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned House Republicans that failing to win the 2026 midterm elections would likely lead Democrats to impeach him. Speaking at a closed-door Republican retreat in Washington on Tuesday, Trump told lawmakers they must hold the House, saying Democrats will, quote, find a reason to impeach him if they retake control. Despite his recent military action in Venezuela, he pivoted to domestic politics by claiming credit for stock market gains while distancing himself from the recent inflation. Trump urged party unity and pressed lawmakers to sell his policies on healthcare, gender issues, and election integrity, while acknowledging that sitting presidents have lost House seats in every midterm since 2006. Republicans currently hold the House by 5 seats, a margin Trump called dangerously thin, with every seat up for grabs this November. Ukraine's allies have signed an agreement to deploy a multinational peacekeeping force if a ceasefire with Russia is reached. At talks in Paris on Tuesday, leaders from 27 European countries, Canada, the United States, NATO, and the EU agreed to back Ukraine with air, land, and sea support and to strengthen its army as the first line of deterrence. U.S. representatives officially backed these security guarantees, suggesting a direct American role in monitoring peace. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said allies identified which countries would lead security efforts on the ground, in the air, and at sea, though each government must still approve binding commitments. An Arctic freeze has brought heavy snow and ice across Europe, killing 6 people and causing widespread travel chaos. In France, authorities reported deadly road accidents and ordered trucks off highways as snow blanketed the Paris region, forcing airport closures. At Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport, around 600 flights were canceled as crews cleared runways and aircraft amid freezing conditions. Sub-zero temperatures also disrupted transport in Britain and the Balkans, shutting schools, halting rail service, and leaving communities struggling with snow, ice, and power outages. In Indonesia, flash floods and landslides triggered by torrential monsoon rains have killed at least 16 people and left 4 missing. That's according to officials on Tuesday in Indonesia's North Sulawesi province. Fast-moving torrents of mud and debris swept away 7 homes and damaged over 140 others in the province early on Monday, forcing more than 680 residents into emergency shelters. Rescue teams recovered bodies as waters receded. Local authorities have declared a 14-day emergency response. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
We should brace for fiercely cold weather. Bitterly cold air is moving in from the northwest, causing a sharp drop in temperatures overnight. Therefore, cold wave advisories will take effect from 9 p.m. tonight, mainly around the central regions in Gyeongsangbuk-do province. Temperatures will continue to fall and Seoul will plummet to -9 degrees Celsius tomorrow morning. Feels like temperature will be even colder at -14 degrees. Not only in Seoul, but it will also be a cold morning across the country, with Chuncheon at -13 degrees, Daejeon at -8 degrees. Highs will rise to only -1 degree in Seoul and Chuncheon, 4 degrees in Daegu and Busan. Starting Friday night in the central areas, rain or snow will spread nationwide on Saturday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session.
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential for survival. Memorize today's menu. The highlight of office life. Lunchtime. Rice in the bottom left, soup in the bottom right. The top is for the sides. The sauce and the spoon go here. This is the basic layout, but it's a bit odd to switch rice and soup. When you're done, pour the leftovers into the soup bowl. It doesn't look that appetizing, so wait until others are done eating. Step 2. Neng, nep, nenep. These are the most used expressions at work. Choose the most appropriate form. Neng, nep, nenep. Remember that the formal ne can sound a bit stiff. Did you just say yes? Absolutely not acceptable. You want to find the right word for the right occasion. Step 3. Desteria. Desteria is the oasis in the desert. Show them your character. If you're not the diligent type, get a stooky plant. Work is tough. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. Stay put, like the stooky that survives in the desert. Hang in there until the end. Of course, you can always quit. You matter more than anything else. Step 4. Survival kit. Every worker needs a survival kit. Survival kit level 1. This position gets the most exposure. Grab one when you need a sugar boost. Always keep a few treats you can offer your co-workers. Survival kit level 2. These are for hunger pangs before and after a meal. You'll need them when you take a coffee break with your office buddies. Survival kit level 3. Trash talking your boss with your soulmate. Did you survive in the workplace? Office romance? Be careful. Even the photocopier knows all the gossip.
On Press Perspective today, we take a look at North Korea's defense and diplomatic plans for the new year, as well as prospects of cross-border dialogue in 2026. Hello and welcome to Press Perspective for this Wednesday, January 7th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sun-hee. Today we delve into North Korea's plans for the year 2026 and their implications for peace here on the Korean Peninsula. For more on this, our freelance journalist Rafael Rashid here in the studio. Rafael, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I also have Professor Kim Young-jun at the Korea National Defense University joining our talk virtually. Professor Kim, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Right, Rafael, we said start with you. Let's begin with remarks by North Korea's Kim Jong-un to usher in the new year and their relevance.
Yeah, Kim Jong-un marked the new year with a lavish celebration at Pyongyang's May Day Stadium, where he delivered his main New Year's address or speech, according to state media KCNA. He praised 2025 as the year where the historic cause aspiring to overall development of socialist construction had successfully passed its first stage. He highlighted military achievements, calling on the nation to advance more vigorously and courageously towards the new future. But I think what drew particular attention this year was a kind of separate, it was a personal letter essentially that he sent specifically to North Korean troops deployed in Russia. And of course, state media covered this, praising them for forging what he called an invincible alliance with Moscow. Kim praised his soldiers fighting in what he termed an alien land, congratulating their heroic defense of the nation's honor and instructing them to be brave. A reminder, of course, that Pyongyang has sent more than 10,000 troops to support Russia's war efforts, and South Korean intelligence does estimate that at least 600 North Koreans have died and maybe thousands more have sustained injuries. So when we look at Kim's message, he acknowledged their sacrifice directly and also told the troops, you know, behind you are Pyongyang and Moscow, and urging them to fight for the fraternal Russian people. He also hinted at continued military involvement, highlighting remarkable feats you will perform on the overseas battlefields in 2026. So it seems that they're there to stay. So overall, I think this just demonstrates how central this kind of military partnership has become to the regime's narrative overall.
Right, and speaking about this particular partnership, Professor Kim, what are your thoughts regarding the future of ties between North Korea and Russia this year?
Yes, already Rafael emphasized. I agree that over the years, Russia-North Korea relation has been strengthened, and its particular military cooperation between the two has been stronger than ever before. So North Korea has been the only country which deployed their soldiers in the front line, at the same time sent ammunition to Russia for the war. Russia really appreciates North Korea's sacrifice and contribution to the war, and two-country partnership has been really strong. And Kim Jong-il's message naturally emphasized this strong partnership, and thanks to their soldiers' sacrifice, North Korea will contribute as possible longer war and this made Russia into a better position for a deal with Ukraine and the U.S. So until armistice reaches the deal, North Korea's support will be very useful for Russia's position for negotiation, and this partnership will be continue.
Right, indeed. Raphael, North Korea tested hypersonic missiles this past Sunday, right off the Trump administration strikes against Venezuela and the seizure of the latter's leader, Nicolas Maduro, on Saturday. Do tell us a bit more about this latest display of defiance, if you will, by North Korea and its broader implications.
Sure. Yeah, as you just said, North Korea, fired these missiles, and then they eventually did say that they are these kind of hypersonic missiles. This was, I think, on Sunday morning, and Kim Jong-un personally oversaw the test. The state media KCNA reported that the missiles hit targets around 1,000 kilometers away over the sea east of North Korea, demonstrating what Pyongyang claims are, these advanced missile maneuverable capabilities designed to essentially evade kind of detection or defense systems. The missile test itself appeared to showcase the Hwasong-11 hypersonic missiles that we saw unveiled at North Korea's military parade. I think it was back in October, although we can't verify these claims 100% for sure, but definitely sophisticated technology was used. Of course, the launch itself came just hours after the U.S. Special Forces, extracted Venezuelan President Maduro in Caracas on Saturday. I think initially some analysts or some headlines assumed that the timing related to President Lee Jae-myung's state visit to China that same day. Of course, it's not unheard of for North Korea to make these provocations during key moments of South Korea's diplomacy. But then the next day, KCNA released a statement on Monday, and this was framed quite differently, stating that these launches, weapons were necessary to maintain a strong and reliable nuclear deterrent because of the recent geopolitical crisis and various international circumstances. So, of course, when you read those words, it seems to be alluding to what's happening with Venezuela. North Korea's foreign minister reinforced this connection, issuing a statement that denounced the U.S. raids on Venezuela as the most serious form of encroachment on sovereignty and a violation of UN Charter. So basically, the ministry even went further, saying that the U.S. was a rogue, and this was the rogue and brutal nature of the U.S. So I think, whether the timing was planned or Kim simply kind of seized the moment and kind of related it to Venezuela, I don't think we can know 100% what the reason was, but I think definitely the message was clear after that the Maduro operation kind of reinforced Pyongyang's conviction that nuclear weapons remain essential for regime survival.
Right. Maduro's operation, to borrow Raphael's words, Professor Kim, has also sparked quite a bit of speculation about the prospects of a similar operation against North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Some say it's possible, others insist it's far-fetched. What are your thoughts, Professor Kim?
Yes, many people now speculate about Trump really target North Korea in the same way. But I don't think there's a possible idea because, firstly, North Korea has a nuclear weapon. Venezuela has never a nuclear weapon. And also, Trump show his love to personal the affection to Kim Jong-un several times, again and again. So at the moment, North Korea, Kim Jong-un will be not the next target to the Trump administration after Venezuela case, because of Trump has shown already his perspective on North Korea again and again, and which is very different from Iran or Colombia or the other countries. So Kim Jong-un will be not the target. So Kim Jong-un already knew this one. So Kim Jong-un really do not care much of a Venezuela case, and he will be now fear about it. So Venezuela case will not make North Korea seek any kind of a negotiation with the U.S. because of that. So Kim Jong-un already emphasized why North Korea need to have a nuclear power by using Venezuela case, and Iran or Colombia will be the next target to the Trump administration naturally. So this will be not influence about the next negotiation for the Trump and Kim Jong-un this spring.
Right. And Rafael, what have you been hearing on the ground about the prospects of a similar operation against North Korea by the US?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, similar to what Professor Kim has been saying right now, that I think these are two very different circumstances and two different beasts that we're dealing with here. North Korea is nuclear, and I think that completely changes everything. But this, of course, there have been a lot of discussions, here in Korea, also in the US, and even on social media, is North Korea going to be next? I think what we're hearing here is that, fundamentally it's probably implausible, but psychologically this will be significant for Pyongyang. Some are saying that this operation sends Kim two clear messages simultaneously, essentially existential threat and justification for a nuclear obsession, essentially. There's also, maybe an expectation that North Korea will accelerate tactical nuclear deployment, strengthen internal security, and potentially tighten its kind of authoritarian grip domestically. There's also an interesting counter-argument emerging as well, that this operation might paradoxically increase the chances or the likelihood of having a Trump-Kim summit rather than decreasing it. The reasoning being that if Kim keeps refusing Trump's dialogue requests after witnessing what has happened in Venezuela, he could potentially face escalating risks, and Trump basically demonstrating willingness to use force might pressure Kim towards engagement rather than running away from it. Lest we forget, of course, that Trump will be visiting China, I think, in the next few months. And so I think this could be a perfect opportunity when Trump does visit China for some form of engagement. We have yet to see how that would happen. I think there's also been discussions about legal parallels as well. Some have noted that U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi classified Maduro as a head of a transnational criminal organization rather than a legitimate leader. And, of course, if we look, internationally, Kim Jong-un has also been accused of similar transnational crimes, drug trafficking, cryptocurrency heists, counterfeiting, even assassinations using chemical weapons. But again, I think most specialists do emphasize that North Korea is fundamentally different, in a different situation here with different deterrent capabilities, making any similar operation implausible. And again, if it did ever come to it, I think automatic nuclear retaliation protocols are in place in North Korea. So I think it's a very different calculation when it comes to the two.
Right. Moving forward, Professor Kim, North Korea is supposed to open its 9th ruling party Congress this year, and there is talk about a potential Congress this particular month. For the sake of our general viewers, do tell us a bit about this party Congress and its relevance.
Yes, Party Congress in the North Korea is very important political event, and this time is the 9th Party Congress. Over the 7 decades, only 8 times were held in the North Korea, this Party Congress. So this is time for 9th the Party Congress, and North Korean leader have announced usually its national vision and review what he achieved. So this time, North Korean leader naturally would like to use Party Congress for strengthening his leadership and showing a strong vision for North Korea. So this 9th Party Congress was the same meaning to Kim Jong-un, and Kim Jong-un would like to use this Party Congress in strengthening his leadership and kind of a Russian military partnership or kind of economic progress. So this will be a very important political event in North Korea.
Right. And Raphael, quite a number of analysts believe that North Korea will seek to pursue an active foreign policy after this year's ruling party Congress. Do tell us a bit more about their views, and do you share them?
Yeah, so these analysts are pointing to several developments suggesting that North Korea may emerge from this Ninth Party Congress with these renewed diplomatic engagements after years of basically relative isolation. I think the first indicator is Kim's recent multilateral debut. Last September, he attended a military parade in Beijing, marking the 80th anniversary of Japan's World War II surrender, appearing alongside, of course, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. We saw those images broadcast around the world. Then in October, North Korea hosted its own military parade commemorating the ruling party's 80th anniversary. And there we saw Kim received foreign dignitaries from China, Russia, and even Vietnam. So I think perhaps these multilateral appearances appear to suggest, they could suggest Pyongyang is testing the waters perhaps for broader engagement in the future. I think some analysts argue that the party congress that we have just talked about, the timing is also deliberate. The event is expected to formally conclude North Korea's 5-year defense plan, which covered it was nuclear arsenal diversification, hypersonic missiles development, and I think with those so-called military objectives that will perhaps be declared as completed, Kim might feel that now he's sufficiently in a spot where he can rebalance his diplomatic view and position strengths rather than vulnerability. Of course, North Korea's alignment with Russia in recent years has, of course, brought Kim Jong-un out of his shell a bit more and rebalanced the relationship with China. Of course, Pyongyang no longer depends entirely on Beijing for economic survival, given the relationship now with Russia. So I think this gives Kim Jong-un a lot more diplomatic flexibility at the moment. So I think overall the logic is that Kim can now maybe even engage with Washington without appearing too desperate.
Right, and speaking about that, Professor Kim, what are your thoughts, that is, with regard to a summit between Pyongyang and Washington in the near future? I mean, Mr. Trump has spoken about going to Beijing in April this year.
Yeah, I personally, I hope to see a presidential summit when Trump visit China this April. But unfortunately, there is a high level of uncertainty, already Raphael pointed out, and no signal for possible presidential summit between the two. So the Trump administration has tried to contact North Korea from very early stage when he started the second administration, and also to listen APEC summit, but no positive response from North Korea, and North Korea never show any kind of interest of a possible summit. And Kevin Kim now is back to the State Department as the special advisor to Alison Hooker as the same team of the Trump first administration. But unfortunately, to Kim Jong-un, there is no strong motivation to meet with the Donald Trump, because he already remember humiliation experience during the Hanoi summit, and he know after 3 years after Trump administration, there is no guarantee post-Trump administration will keep any kind of agreement between Kim Jong-un and Trump will be continued. So to Kim Jong-un, naturally China and Russia more reliable partner and more longer stable partnership than the U.S. So thanks to China and Russia, there is no sanction now. So to Kim Jong-un, there is a very low chance for possible summit between the two. But personally, I hope to see presidential summit this spring.
Right. Raphael, separately, Kim Jong-un's daughter, Chue, has triggered fresh talk about a possible succession. What appears to be fueling these latest talks?
Yeah, I think the catalyst was Kim's daughter at the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun on the 1st of January, marking her first public visit to North Korea's most sacred political site. This is, of course, where Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il lie in state. And I think what made this particularly significant was her positioning in all of this. State media photographs showed the young girl standing at the center of this procession, at the front, in the center, between her two parents on either side. So this is really a front row reality. And I think this builds, of course, on 3 years of increasingly kind of prominent exposure or placement by the regime. We've seen her appear publicly, I think it was in November 2022, at a ballistic missiles test, and then she has since been seen at military parades, weapons factory inspections. Last September, she also went to Beijing, so I think this was her first known overseas trip, going with her father. South Korea's National Intelligence Service has shifted its assessment over time, over the years, initially calling her basically a symbol of future generations. I think that was in 2022. But by last year, I think basically describing her activities as succession education in progress. So I think the latest exposure seems to be North Korea's equivalent of presenting her credentials to, as kind of the next person who might be in charge of this kind of spiritual or kind of regime change.
Right. And Professor Kim, what are your thoughts regarding such a power transition from Kim Jong-un to his daughter, Kim Joo-ae?
Yeah, now it's a very highlight on Kim Jong-un's daughter, Kim Joo-ae. And recent, her skinship with his daddy became controversial, and her status has been strengthened ever. Nonetheless, unofficial power transition is a different story, and it is not clear. To Kim Jong-un, I think Kim Joo-ae is kind of a North Korean version of Ivanka Trump or Princess Diana, as showing Kim Jong-un as a family man, as a symbol of a family man. There is no official signal for power transition from daddy to daughter at the moment. But anyway, there is an open high possibility, but so far there is no official signal about power transition.
Right, I see. All right, on that note, we'll have to end this edition. Professor Kim, as always, thank you very much for your insights today.
Thank you very much.
Right, and Raphael here in the studio, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Right, that ends this edition of Press Perspective. Thank you for watching. We'll be back same time with more panel discussion tomorrow.